We are the Broadcast Podcast, front and center, where the change agents, storytellers, and activators from behind the scenes take their seat with us now front and center. Joining us now is Barbara Richards from Project 180, and she runs an organization that helps reintegrate former prisoners into the community and to be of service to the community. And this is so important because we've been talking in the last couple interviews here at Front and Center, everything from serial killers to our pop culture fascination with crime and behind bars, and there's so much media and television out there, to what goes on into the prison system. And now we've got Barbara joining us to talk about how we transition folks out there. Why is this important, and what is the mission statement of Project 180?
The mission statement is Project 180 seeks to reintegrate formerly incarcerated citizens into community life. And that means that we don't try to force anybody. We provide the open doors for people to come in and do the work to do it themselves, because it is a lot of work and it can rarely be done alone.
So this is a model that could obviously be replicated in other communities.
We hope it will be replicated in other communities because it's very successful for many reasons. It's successful for the individual, and currently we're working only with men in our residential program. It's successful for their families, and it's definitely successful for the community. And I say that because if someone reenters the community from prison or jail and they're not prepared, they don't have any advocacy, the likely result will be homelessness, unemployment, further criminal behavior, poverty. And through our organization, through our residential program since inception, we have probably prevented about 55,000 crimes.
Wow.
Right.
That's an important statistic.
Yes.
A noteworthy statistic. I mean, the way I see it is, we watch the movies. You're let go. You walk out. You just walk out the door, and I guess it's kind of like that. And if you've been in prison for a period of time, then you're lost technology, right? Accessibility. Like, you're not going to just go get a bank account.
Correct.
I mean, you've got to first have to get an iPhone, but you have to have $1,000 to get an iPhone. Like, is that? Am I understanding that?
You are, because incarceration is our more modern form of banishment. So we banish people behind walls. We are unable to see the punishment. In the old days, it was done in, like, talking about 400 years ago, in a public square, and everyone observed that this person had been punished, they had paid their dues, and then they were very quickly reintegrated into the community immediately. And we don't do that anymore because we don't see the punishment. We don't have that effect of how shall I say it? The deed is finished. It's all finished now.
Right. It's like, just put it away. Like, you
Right.
put it away in a closet. You don't have to deal with it. It's
right.
It's complete.
And it's a social contract that we do it that way now.
Right.
So when people get out, when we pick them up at the bus or when we pick them up at the prison gate or the jail, we usually see people who have a small
So you do
baggie.
pick them up at the prison gate, like like in the movies, right?
Yeah, if they're within 3 hours of Sarasota,
sure.
Right. So we'll pick them up, and they have usually just a very small package of, like, a baggie, or
And that's what they're starting with.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so you think about all the
That
things
feels like
that
an
we
impossible
need.
task.
It does, and in fact, they have a word for that. The guys who are getting out, they call it the efforts. And the reason they say that is because there comes a point where it is so frustrating to try and put your life back together again, or to put it together for the first time, that you get so frustrated that you just can't do it. And you say, F it, and you go back to what you were doing before.
In my previous interview, I talked about a story that I worked from a media perspective, because it was my first time inside of prison, state prison penitentiary. And just even the process of going in as a visitor to see an inmate was pretty extraordinary. And it was a story that got a lot of media sensation, especially when Court TV first went on the air, because it was known as the vampire cult killer. And the kid had shaved his teeth like vampires, and his crime was heinous. And he got commuted from death sentence, because Florida changed the law from giving a death sentence to minors to life in prison. And I think he's about 39 years old right now. I always felt that he kind of got an unfair deal because of the media coverage. It's kind of like when a story gets so much bigger than the case itself. And we've seen that a lot happen. But I always think if he went out, if he did get out at this age, what he's missed since being 16, like I wouldn't even know how you see a human being function like that. It's almost like a time travel.
It's very difficult, and the person does need advocacy on the outside. What I say is a person, in order to change his life, needs to have will and desire to do so. But that doesn't mean you know how to do it.
Right. The how is different than the want.
Exactly. And so that's where we come in, and we provide a safe environment, pardon me, for
Kind of
individuals.
like a halfway house?
Somebody who didn't know what we do might call it a halfway house, but we call it a residential program because we provide comprehensive, in-depth help. We have 2 caseworkers for one person might have 6 to 7 people working with him. We provide food, we get the person a phone, we get them clothing, we welcome them in as if it's a family. And it's really what everybody needs when they come back.
And your retention rate? Project 180's what retention rate?
Retention would be how long they stay in the program.
Okay.
So the minimum stay is 6 months unless we ask you to leave before then. And the long stay is up to 2 years. So the recidivism rate, which is rearrest for a new crime, is pretty low. The national rate is 44% within the first year, and in Project 180, it's 14%.
Oh,
so 44 to 14.
That's a significant difference. So instead of it being half, it's less than 1/4. It's almost
Right.
20%.
Yeah, it's 30% less.
Yeah.
So when you have somebody coming out and you don't help them, it doesn't serve the individual
Or the community.
and thus it doesn't serve the community. So, we're lowering recidivism rates. We're keeping people from homelessness. We help them with their finances so that they can begin to save money. We charge as little as we can per week. It's a $200 program fee per week.
And you probably rely heavily on donors then.
And we rely very heavily on donors, primarily foundations and private support. We don't
Maybe
use...
you don't get grants, government grants or anything?
Not government grants, no.
Interesting.
No.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And so, are you as a part of the organization responsible when someone commits the crime again?
Could you say that again?
Just in a conscionable way, is the organization responsible if someone goes back and commits a crime again? Like, is it like a failure? Like, how do you just differentiate or distinguish? I mean, are you just like, oh, we did the best we could, or do you meet them back where they're at?
Well, we have taken people back in after they've left. Usually when someone leaves, it's because they see something shiny out there,
yes.
right? So they might want to leave because they got a girlfriend. Or they want to have a dog, or they are they want to use again.
Right.
And very occasionally somebody will use in the program. We do not allow them to stay in the house that night. They have to go to detox and get it out of their systems. And then if they want to come back and they want to participate fully in what we have to offer, we usually will take them back.
So it must feel really good to see people become, job trained, successful, and contributing members of society. Because ultimately, that's the goal. I mean,
it is.
That's what we want.
It's like magic.
When I first learned about this, I thought it was brilliant. I thought how do people get out and start? I mean, I'm an analog girl in a digital world, and I can highly function, and it's still sometimes a frustrating reach. And so I thought, how does that happen? And how does society benefit from people if they're not being, moved out? Can you also just describe some of the services that Project 180 provides?
Sure. So when someone comes in, as I mentioned, we get them a phone, we get them new clothes. We don't go to the bargain bin and get used clothing. One man said very graphically, "I am so glad I didn't have to go to a box of somebody else's underwear and dig through it."
Yeah, it's like giving their dignity back.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's about. So we get clothes, we'll get tools for them to get started at work if they have something lined up, because the guys are great workers. So some of them have a job, lined up. We provide housing. There's a very close relationship between incarceration and homelessness. They feed on each other in a cyclical manner. So we stop that cycle and provide this, essentially long-term housing. For someone to graduate, they have to actually be able to have an apartment that they can go to that's safe and affordable. We work with introductions to employers if the person doesn't have someone in mind. We help them with finances in terms of helping them budget and get started with that. We have these 6 pillars of stability that we go by, because getting someone to the point where they can stabilize their life is really a large part of it, because they've been in this reactive mode for years and years. Some of our guys have been using since they were 6, 9, 12 years old, and they never had the opportunity, because of their disease, their addiction, to learn how to operate as an adult in the community, a responsible adult. So that's what they learn through the program. And the 6 pillars are recovery, housing, employment, finances, relationships, and health care, because most people have not taken care of their health, and that's very difficult to do when you're locked up, and it's very difficult to do when you're on the street. So we partner with several different places in the community to get medical, dental, vision, and mental health care.
And one of the questions we were asked by one of our followers is the question of, does anybody coming out, are they truly entitled to all the rights that all citizens have when they come out? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, yes and no. If someone's on probation, they are still under the purview of the government. And at that point, there are limitations in terms of travel and sometimes even where you're going to be at any given moment of the week. But once all the dues have been paid, they're just like you and me.
And you were called to do this, right? Like, just simply, you were called to do this. So this is just you're living your dharma and your purpose.
Yes, my passion. And when you say I was called to do it, that's very true. I didn't feel like there was anything else that I could do
or should be doing. Mm-hmm. And you had a calling, and you actually followed it. So I really value that.
Thank you. Can I let you know about something exciting?
Sure. Yes.
2 individuals in the Sarasota community have produced a film about the men of Project 180. And we will be premiering it on October 11th at Michael's on East. So if anyone's interested in our program, please look us up on our website, project180reentry.org, and come see the film.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's project180reentry.org if you'd like more information, like to participate, volunteer, donor, or go to the upcoming events. Thank you so much for joining us, Barbara. Thank you so much for being here. Truly a front and center, perfect guest. I really appreciate that. If you'd like to know more about us at Front and Center, please subscribe to us here on Rumble or any other place that you like to listen to your favorite podcast. I'm Jacquie Jordan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Front and Center with Jacquie Jordan podcast. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Instagram at TV Guestpert. We'd love to hear from you.